quest begins in the real time. So when we arrived there at the top of Saki Hills, we stayed there the whole night, and the Nyamwasa continued the organizing. So by morning, by 5, we were attacked again. The next day now, we were attacked by the RPF soldiers. And the only way you could be saved, those people who know Masisi, those hills are very, very, very high, but they don't have trees. They are just farms. They are just grassland. And so the only way, you couldn't run down the hill because it's too steep. So the only way you could just roll like a stone. So we rolled all the way down to the river. And then if you reach the river still safe, then you wake up, you look at yourself, you shake yourself, and you pinch yourself to see if you are still alive. If you feel the pain, then you are still alive. So you run again. So that's how we survived the Masisi. We ran through Masisi, and the people of Masisi were so kind, very, very generous people. And we spoke the same language. So they took us to their houses, they gave us food, and they helped, and they begged us to stay in Masisi. But man, what I had experienced with the RPF, there was no stopping. So I told them, let me continue, you will find me ahead, God willing. So I didn't stop in Masisi. But those who stopped in Masisi, because there was everything that you needed, good food, good people. So those who remained in Masisi actually were slaughtered. So me, I continued from Masisi. There is this family, I will never forget it. There is a family, because I was, the only thing I was running with, I had actually, it was the Bible. So whenever we paused to breathe, when the RPF is not shooting at us. So I could read the Bible and read some of the verses my mother used to read for us by fireside. So one day, there is this market in Kibabi, those who know Masisi. I was reading the Bible, I was alone because the world actually was not making any sense at all. So I was reading the Bible, and this family, 2 men came, and one woman came to me, said, "You have been around and you have seen, you are the only one reading the Bible. How come you are reading the Bible?" I said, "I have no choice. So this is the only thing I have." So would you, even as we read the Bible, those people were carrying the Bible. They are those we call abagorozi. Those are SDA reformers. So said, even as we like reading the Bible, we like to come to our house. We are good people, we are people of God. Come to our house so that you can take shower. So I went there. These people were so kind. They boiled the water for me to take shower. They brought the is it called the G kind of lotion? The G.
Oh, yes.
Ichimuri.
Yeah,
Ichimuri.
Yes.
Yes, they brought Ichimuri, the G, and they rubbed my body, massaged my body. Those people, they felt alive again. So they said, "Please stay with us and stay here. You are a young man. You don't have to, you still have the whole world ahead. Where you are going, if you continue going deeper beyond here, there are other communities which actually eat people. They hate people." So when he said that there are people who eat people, I remember those fake stories we read from Belgian books, the Anthropophage DR Congo. So I said, so it's better to be eaten by Congolese than being killed by RPF soldiers. So because those people who eat me, they will enjoy at least for that day, but the RPF will smash my skull. So I refused to stay with them. Then I went, I continued fleeing with other refugees. So something happened because it's a long story. We arrived at a river called the Nyabarongo. So it's not a Nyabarongo in Rwanda. It's another Nyabarongo which divide the Masisi and the Wanyanga territories. So when we arrived there, it's a huge river. I had never seen such a kind of huge river in a width and also in a water currents. So there was no way to cross the bridge because the Banyanga people, indigenous people there, to cross that river used to use mobile bridges that they traditionally made out of plants, and they come up with a bridge. So when they heard massive refugees are coming into the territory, they dismantled those bridges, those makeshift bridges. And so there was no way to cross the river. And there were no canoes to use to sail across. So the only options which were there was to, some refugees had some kind of access. So we had to cut trees, huge trees, mahogany trees which have been there. So it used to take like hours for like 10 men to bring a tree down. So we cut the trees until they fell into the river, until they made a bridge. So that's how it took us like 2 days. Then after 2 days, then we started a crossing. So when we crossed over, we were millions and millions. So everybody could not cross, go across the bridge. So there was an organization whereby the people who crossed fast were women and the children. So me, I had there was a kid who I met on the way fleeing that he had twisted his ankle. So he was not here with his parents. So I carried him. So they said, you, because you are with your brother, cross the bridge. That's how he crossed among the first people. But it didn't take long before the RPF soldiers arrived there, and they slaughtered many people because the crossing process was very slow, and thousands of people were slaughtered. So we went all the way to Ting Ting, and I was among the first people arrived in Ting Ting, and we set up the Ting Ting refugee camp. In the Ting Ting refugee camp, so God knows how to save his people. As we were fleeing through Banyanga, there was someone who had a medication. He had gotten from gold in Mugunga, but he didn't know how to read that. So I knew a little bit of English, and also I spoke French and a little bit of German. So the medications from Mimosa, actually they were in Germany and English. So I told he brought the medication to me and he said, I hear you are a student and you speak many languages. Could you help me? Because at that time I was actually studying chemistry. Could you tell me the medication which could help to treat some of the diseases that we might encounter in this journey? So he said, I want a medication for malaria and also medication for diarrhea, because those were the common illness in that kind of environment. So I got those medications, and we used to have a medication called the Fansida that time. There were tablets called the Fansida. So I got the Fansida, I gave him for malaria. Then I got the antibiotics, I gave him for both the diarrhea and the wounds. So the rest of the medication, he said, go with them. Even if you leave them to me, I wouldn't be able to read them. So I started carrying the medication, and then whenever I saw someone who has a problem, I could just give them, and they could get better. So someone came to me and said, my friend, you are healing people here. Why don't you use this opportunity God has given you to actually sell the medication to Banyanga people? You are going to get a goat, you are going to get a rice, we are going to survive. I said, that's a good idea. So I took a pen and a white paper and wrote on on my chest that I'm a Munganga. Munganga in the language means a doctor. So I became a doctor at the time to survive. So I started going around
you became a doctor while you were surviving all these atrocities.
I started going around. I started going around as a Munganga. So whenever they saw Munganga, they came to me and brought it to me. They sick people. So magic of the medication is that those people had never had taken any conventional treatment. So they used the herbs alone. So any dose, small dose you gave them, it did wonders. So especially one of the major problems they had was worms, the mignon. So I knew that for people, for an adult, you give him the whole pill. Then the children you divide. That's all, the trick I knew. Whatever piece, small piece you gave them, they went into the bush and tons of worms came out. So the word started spreading around that there is a magical doctor who is around. There is a Munganga, Munganga. That's how they used it to call me. So many people came. So they had this money used to be called the Frasifa, I mean Nouveau, which was actually useless at that time. So we started taking goat. Goat became so many, and they had people to carry those goats. It became too much, and so I says such kind of things. So I told them I would just be treating you for free, and then there were people who used to sell minerals and go to sell minerals in Kisangani and sleep with a prostitute there and they get infected and they come back. There's no medication. So they brought those people. Then you give them one antibiotic, just one pill. The guys get better. The next day they come with the bags and the sheep and the cuckoos, chicken and everything to thank you. So, and then we arrived in Tingi and they started a small clinic. Those who were in Tingi, you remember the first small clinic which was giving medication for free to refugees. I had tons and tons carrying them actually. So I started giving it to refugees before the humanitarian organizations came. By around December, we had already, December 96, we had already established ourselves in Ting. And there is this guy from Chibuye, I don't remember the name. I will give you the picture so that you can put it on this. This guy organized our fellowship and I have never seen him. That guy, we stayed with him in Ting. And then there is another guy from home who was a handicap. We lived with him in Ting. And we stayed in Ting. There was no food, nothing. The medication, so we got the food and we took people in. I took in kids who were just an accompanied kid who were just alone. And so we stayed in Ting. Then later, an organization, I think it's an organization called Action contre la faim, Action Against Hunger, started coming in and bringing in food. Otherwise, millions of people, thousands of people were dying, especially children, because of diarrhea and the other kind of diseases. There was no medication. At least around between 50,000 and I mean between 4,000 and 5,000 children were dying every day on a daily basis because there was no food, there was no water, no drinking water. And the people who went to do, I don't remember the time we used to do puye, who used to go to loot to look for food from the indigenous communities in Congo. Actually, many of them were killed because of what happened is that you could, these people have these arrows which are poisonous arrows, which they put snake venom to poison them. So when it touches you, even slight touch, you die. So many people died as they were going to look for cassava to eat. Then one day, a woman came called Sadako Ogata. We say the sensei, she was, I think, the director of, or the president of UNHCR at that time. So she was in charge of refugees in the world. So when she came, we said, now we are going to survive. Actually, we didn't. When she came, she said, you only have two options. You die inside this forest, or you either die inside this forest, or if you agree, we bring you planes which are going to take you back to Rwanda. Otherwise, you have no options. Even in this country, very soon, those people who are protecting you here, they are not going to be in power anytime soon. So she was talking about Mobutu. So she knew everything. And looking at how machete the kids were. You see, there is a video called the Chisangani Diary. That's how we live. If you look at the Chisangani Diary, that's how we looked. Only one person managed to come to Ting. This Spanish guy, journalist, who came and record. That's the only record of refugees, how Rwandan and Hutu refugees were suffering in Ting. So,
William, thank you for actually referring to the Kisangani Diaries. That was one of the early documentaries that came out talking about the this invasion of the Congo and the slaughtering of Rwandan refugees and slaughtering of Congolese people, the genocide that took place in the Congo. There is also another film in French called Zaire, Fleuve du Sang. And that means Zaire, which is the former name of the Congo. And it says Zaire, a river, a bloody river.
yes.
It also talks about this invasion. And for those of you who speak English or French, there's another documentary called Afrique en morceaux, Afrique en morceaux, or Africa in Pieces. And you can actually find that film also on YouTube. And if you watch that film, it basically shows some of the military leaders that William is talking about, like General Kayumba Nyamwasa, who he is referred to multiple times, General James Kabarebe, all of them bragging about going in there and slaughtering these people, slaughtering the refugees, slaughtering the Congolese people. So just wanted to share the resources and give you a little break, William. So please continue with your testimony. Just wanted to give you a little break to
Thank you very much for giving those resources. Actually, I'm going to look at them after this. So in the Ting, then we started hearing the news that the RPF actually was advancing. In the Ting, we had two stops. There was a stop of Walikare town. There was also, after Walikare, there was a Amis refugee camp, and then Ting. So the people of Amis had started fleeing into Ting. That was around 50 kilometers away. So we knew here we are going to become manure for this forest again. And I remember this guy from Chibuye. I will give you the photo. So sharing with him and sharing with another guy called Teziaremi. Teziaremi, I think Leonidas is something like that. He's from home, and his father is a Ahori Nyuze. So he's from home, is someone that who was ahead of me, the person that I knew very well. So we were living together. After fellowshipping, it was on a Friday. I won't forget. So we fellowshipped then, and we looked at the situation, and we prayed, then we said, actually, this looks like the last day in this place. And if we don't meet here, let's work hard so that we meet in heaven. So we knew that we were going to die there, because there were news that the Ugandan army had also arrived in the Lubutu shopping center, which was between 5 to 10 kilometers away from Ting on your way to Kisangani. And the refugees were heading to the west because the east was a wonder. And I assessed the situation, and I told the people, my friend, I'm not going to sleep in this camp again this night. Because I looked at it and something was telling me things are not looking good. I was feeling very uneasy. So I went and we used to stay with the other kids. I told the kids, who wanted to go with me? And we just go. So there was when we arrived in Ting, there were also sections of Ruhengeri Prefecture, Kibuye Prefecture. One of the guys, my schoolmate, was actually the leader, or the, how do you call these guys? The governor of Ruhengeri. So the Agisio Country Lafay used to give food, but he gave food to people based on where they come from. So this guy, I told him, actually, I'm leaving. Then he looked at me and said, man, you are leaving. And this is the only place we have. After this is death. So where are you heading to? So I told him, I have a feeling that I should not sleep in this camp again, even one more night. So I went and crossed the river Ting, river Lubutu, into Lubutu shopping center. There was a Congolese who was my friend, so he welcomed me. I told him I was feeling very uneasy, so probably crossing the bridge would be better. So I crossed the bridge that night. There was no problem, and I came back the next day. So, but I had left some of the little things I had across the river. Then it came and stayed in a camp the whole day. We went in to take a bath in the river, which was nearby. For those who live in Ting, they know there is a place we used to go and wash. So I went there and spent there the whole afternoon. But something continued telling me this place is not safe. So I slept in that place that night. Then the night they started shooting, and they shot the whole night, and actually across some guns were shooting from Lubutu shopping center toward the refugees. As we fled, we only had one option. Then there were other guns shooting, actually mobile guns, which are mounted on cars, shooting from the side of Warikare or Amis refugee camp. So they came shooting the whole night, and we were like 400 or to 500,000 refugees in Ting. So we started going toward Lubutu, and thousands and thousands. There were stampede, and the people, children crying, women crying, and it was horrible. And as RPF actually was chanting, kill them, kill them, kill them. So they continued shooting at us. Then people arrived at the Lubutu bridge. The Lubutu bridge, you might have seen in the pictures, of refugees came to that bridge. The bridge was actually an old bridge, which the infrastructure was there like 100 years. So it was an old bridge, and the refugees, when they arrived there were other guns which were shelling toward the bridge. Those guns actually were from Ugandan troops. Then the Nyamwasa guns were pushing from behind and from also the forest. Then they pushed, and the people, thousands and thousands, stood at that bridge until it collapsed. So thousands of the people sank with the bridge into the bridge and made a new bridge of human bodies. So we crossed over other people. You could hear people saying, please hold my hand, I'm drowning. So it was chaotic. And we ran then past through the forest, past Lubutu shopping center, and found ourselves in Ting Ting. So from Ting Ting, to Kisangani, not Ting Ting, to Kisangani. So when we we arrived in Kisangani, we continued, went to this place where Red Cross was. I'm forgetting this refugee camp. There was another refugee, Ubundu refugee camp. So we went to Ubundu, we took the train, we arrived in Ubundu. Then the train after us actually was taken by refugees, but it was bombed by the insiders. Actually, I have also to mention this. Within the Mobutu's refugees, the Congolese, soldiers, the Congolese soldiers, there were insiders already. The pro-RPF, who were also already there, who were soldiers. So the train that made the RPF arrive very much ahead of us in any town that we went to. So a train which went to Ubundu after us from Kisangani was bombed, and it was carrying like 10,000 Rwandan Hutu refugees. So when we arrived in Ubundu refugee camp, the people we met there, they said they were the Red Cross. Little did we know that actually they were RPF agents who were already there. So they started providing food to us so that they could attract more refugees. Then one night they started shooting from Bru. So I ran away naked. I actually went all the way. Then I found myself near a very big river, very far away, and they stayed there. Then some Congolese took me to their house. They stayed there. Then we started going all the way, fleeing all the way to Mbandaka. So in Mbandaka, there is also something which happened. Refugees took a ship. They are not even called a ship. There is another name of these things that they ship you across.
Yeah, it's little
ferry. They are called the ferry. Yeah.
Yes.
So thousands of refugees took a ferry, and that ferry was sunk into River Congo, and thousands of refugees died there in that ferry as they tried to cross into Congo, Brazzaville now. So now we are in Mbandaka. We wanted to cross into Congo, Brazzaville, because it was clear that RPF wanted also to take over Congo. So we couldn't stay in Congo. Then there was this Catholic priest who helped us to find a boat which took us. It was in a kind of boat which had the engine, an engine boat which took us to Kinshasa. So I ended up in Kinshasa, and whereas the other people were crossing. So when we arrived in Kinshasa, I thought the worst was over, but we were so mistaken. By May, I think 17, when Mobutu left Kinshasa, I was in Kinshasa. So when I was in Kinshasa, and the RPF took over, and I had this Bible. The Bible had photos of some of my cousins.
Hey, William, for just a quick second, another resource that I think, before you cross over to the to Congo Brazzaville, there is a report that was released on October 1st, 2010, called the UN Mapping Exercise
report for Congo that documents these atrocities, the genocide that was committed, the mass rapes, and the crimes against humanity that were committed, across the Congo. I know that most of what you're saying is around the refugees, but there was also more than 6 million Congolese people have been killed, have died since the invasion of Rwanda and Uganda in 1996, 25 years ago. This year is going to make 26 years. That's a whole generation. That is somebody being born, going to elementary school, high school, college, possibly getting married and having kids, and so that's how long it's been. This report has not been acted upon. There's an effort to work and bring justice around this by many groups, including famous doctor in the Congo, Dr. Denis Mukwege, and and a number of other organizations, including the sponsors of this talk that work on this, that we'll talk about a little bit more. So also on this very program, Our Stories, Our Survival, the last person to get on those boats to cross into Brazzaville actually was on this. He gave testimony on this program along with you, Delphine, JP, Jean-Pierre. He was on here months ago, and he testified on how he was the very last person that the Congolese people put on a boat. And as soon as he left, everybody else that was left behind, was killed. So just wanted to go ahead and share that also. Keep going.
Thank you very much. Actually, another thing I would like to mention it before I get it to Kinshasa is that the refugees who fled into the forest in Congo, RPF actually had a budget of buying Rwandan Hutu refugees and the Rwandophone. These are Hutus from Masisi. Anyone who speaks Kinyarwanda, buying them from the Congolese people so that they are handed over to RPF and killed. Actually, each refugee cost $50. So that's how they managed to get many refugees together and killed them in masses, and they buried them in mass graves. It's because they bought them from some Congolese families which had been protecting them. But when they had the money is coming, they just started selling us out to RPF. That is very, very important to mention, because people don't know that actually we were bought, we were auctioned to be killed. That's how far RPF can go to make sure that they kill it. So they had to pay money to refugees, to Congolese, to buy Rwandan Hutu refugees so that they could be slaughtered. That's what happened in Congo. So
that's so very sad and disturbing to hear that, people auctioned, like goats and, waiting to be slaughtered. That's very sad. Yeah. But
first the Congolese hid many Rwandan families. But when the money came in, General Nyamwasa, it's good to say these things. You see, people sometimes they come and pretend here that they wanted to save refugees, and yet they are the root causes of the miseries that Hutu refugees have been going through. We have to be honest. Nyamwasa was a part and a parcel of all these killings. There is no doubt about it. So those who defend him, well and good. And unfortunately, I know some people who lived with us in Kinshasa being slaughtered. This time who support Nyamwasa, me, I will never, because he killed us until he comes and he explains himself why he had to kill innocent people. Majority of the people were innocent. You cannot say over 4 million Rwandans participated in the killings of the Tutsis. No. Majority of the refugees were innocent. So why did Nyamwasa go all the way to Congo to slaughter them, to the point even buys them, auctions them, the same way that slaves were auctioned 500 years ago, so that we are. And then we arrived in Kinshasa. So when I arrived in Kinshasa, the only thing I had actually was the Bible. The only thing I didn't leave behind was the Bible. So when we arrived in Kinshasa, then everybody was living in Kinshasa, and we wanted to find a humanitarian organization that can host us. So we went to Belgian embassy, and we told them we are Rwandans, we are students, we are here, we have been fleeing the RPF. Now, please help us. The Belgians said, no, go to French embassy. We Belgians, we don't support Interahamwe. That's what they actually said. We don't support Interahamwe. We said, but we are not Interahamwe. We are just refugees here. He said, no, we don't care. So when we went to France embassy in Kinshasa.
William, for the audience, the Interahamwe was the militia that committed killings against Tutsis in the genocide in 1994 in Rwanda. So they were referring to refugees as Interahamwe, basically to dehumanize them and call them criminals, even though they were just ordinary people. This is basically propaganda. Proceed with the embassy visit.
Yeah, thank you very much. One of the things that probably should clarify here is that the thing that the Western media did effectively to support RPF regime is to dehumanize Hutu refugees and rebrand them, so that if there is any kind of organization that would like, or anyone who would like to support Hutu refugees, will not do that. The Western media, the Western humanitarian organizations consultatively worked hard to dehumanize Rwandan Hutu refugees all over we went. And that they did it effectively. And it is something that has impacted us as Rwandan refugees for many years. So it wasn't done by default, it's by design, because the Kagame backers knew very well that the only way that they could succeed, it was first branding us, all of us, all the Rwandans, as killers. And even the innocent children, the fact that you are Hutu, it automatically made you a criminal. So they successfully done that. So when we were in Kinshasa, we wanted to go to humanitarian organizations. The only place we were told was the UN, United Nations headquarters. So as we were moving from Quartier Gombe, for those who know Kinshasa, we arrived at the junction of Limete and St. Paul Avenue. And once we arrived there, actually, we were three or four, with the other guys we were running with, Rwandans. And one of them was actually a Masisi, a Rwandophone from Masisi. So as we were running, then we reached there, we meet this group of RPF soldiers being celebrated, and the Congolese dancing. And unfortunately, we were stopped. And they were speaking in Rwanda. So we were stopped, and then they say, where are you going? We asked, then the RPF soldier asked the Congolese to ask us in Lingara of where we were heading to. So we said in French, we avoided anything to do with Kinyarwanda. So we said in French and Lingara that we are actually going to celebrate for the victory of RPF. And they say, as you can see, I had a Bible. As you can see, I'm a pastor here, and we have a crusade that I'm going to preach, and so that we could celebrate your victory, and everybody is happy. Then, unfortunately, probably the RPF Tutsi soldier sensed something, and they said, could you ask him to open that thing he had? So it was a Bible which was very well packaged and covered. So you could think it was like a device. So probably a photography device. So he said, open. To open in that Bible, I had photos of my relatives who were soldiers. So who were senior officers in the XFA. One of them was the wedding of Major Pilot, Major Pilot Tiziavos Aron. For those people who come from Rwancheri or Nguri know him. And his brother, Captain Marcel Ndagijimana. So those were the photos when they had a wedding. And you remember when the soldiers, ex-fire soldiers, had a wedding, everybody was in a uniform. So I had those photos.
So if you can just quickly clarify the ex-father, you referring to the army of the former government, the
Habyarimana's government.
Yes. Government, yes. Yeah, please proceed.
Yes. Yeah. So, and also I had the photos of Melchior Ndadaye burial day, the ceremony when he was being buried. So all three things were supposed to sell me out and be decapitated right there and then. So, and when I opened the Bible, it was the Bible, all the photos, I don't know which miracle or angel who came, all the photos fell on the road, face down, all of them. And then I said, you see, it's the photo, but it's shaking. You see, these are the photos. And they said, pick them and go and they do the crusade and the fellowship at the big camp, prayer camp. So I picked them the same way they were facing down and put them into the Bible again and they closed the Bible and went. When the other guys realized that I was held, remained behind, the other three guys were together. They sneaked out and they disappeared. So I was alone there to be decapitated. So then I took the photos and the Bible then went. And a voice came from nowhere. Imagine I was like 20 meters away from them. And I started even singing in Kinyarwanda. Can you imagine? And it was in the evening, I started singing. There is a song, a hymnal song which says that the good tidings. So I started singing that song and went, and the guys heard me where they were hiding themselves in a fence, and they came and asked me, what happened? I said, I don't even know. Let's go. So we went to UN headquarters. And when we arrived there were other refugees who were hiding there, Rwandan refugees who were hiding there. Then the RPF, we stayed there for a week. RPF started coming for us. So they could take women and girls and they rape them the whole night there. And you could hear the women crying, being raped. So that time I was tiny, and also people used to think that I'm from West Africa. So I never spoke Kinyarwanda, even the Rwandans who were there never knew me. I only spoke French. And so I called myself a priest. That I used a pastor. I used to have a church, just the Reverend's mission in Kinshasa. So I stayed there until a French guy who realized that the RPF was going to kill, because they used to come and pick people. I know someone will watch this that I know who lived in that building. So they used to come and pick people every day, Rwandans, refugees, and they go and kill them. And they never. I remember one family, they took the father And the father never came. The woman was always crying every day. And when the kids, those kids were between 5 and 11, always asking, where is daddy? Where papa? Every time. So she could cry. Then this guy, a French guy who was in charge of the security of the building, the UN building, and the logistics in Kinshasa, said, I know RPF is going to kill you. If they have continued coming here, the next time they will just kill every refugee here. And you know that they are also attacking us. So there is no way I can protect you here. The best way, I have negotiated with the Congolese and paid them $400 to take some of you across the river into Congo Brazzaville. So one day he organized that boat, and it was a canoe actually, and we crossed. We went.